Thank you very much, British Oman Society. I think without your support, this wouldn't have been possible. I'm delighted to welcome all of you and about, from what I understand, 70 of people from Oman joining us online. So it's an amazing opportunity for me to share some thoughts and some work that we have been doing. So thank you very much, Chris, Rosa, Tia, and Talal. So smart industry initiative is really the backbone of it is bringing UK university technologies in connection directly with the businesses, public sector and private sector. Because today, the economic growth is not about what we have, it's about how we manage it. So that's where I think the importance is technology plays an important role in this whole sort of range. So the idea is to really bring Oman access to not just the technology spinouts or whatever, but also to the research and development work that is going on into universities. I'm delighted that we have Jim Wilkinson from Oxford Science Enterprise. And you will hear a little bit more how we are expanding that access to different universities as well. So we can go to the next slide. So here, right. So those of you who were with me in my last year's lecture, I talked about the economic reforms that are required are ongoing as well, because I had the opportunity to work with the Ministry of Finance, with the minister. So I was quite involved in those reforms, especially His Excellency Nasser al-Jashmi leading the Tawazun project, which is credited to be one of the most successful projects, which is a 5-year midterm plan and all those kind of work. It was very clear. So when we looked at the IMF report, so last year lecture, I was really focusing on IMF Article 4 staff, but now IMF report are considered to be one of the most reliable report that sovereign rating uses, and also the investors who are investing in Oman, whether they are lending or just investing. So IMF report, I was involved in the Article 4 consultation many times, so I'm aware how they look at it. And one of the points that we raised in my last year lecture was that while IMF was very, very complimentary to Oman for its achievement and the midterm plan and all those things, but they did raise that productivity is still a challenge in Oman, and access to research is also not so exciting. And they gave graphs. So if anybody is interested, please go and look at staff report for 2023, not the latest one. And what they mentioned there is that because of this, what you call productivity, lower productivity, non-hydrocarbon sort of growth is declining or not very increasing or growing so significantly. They did highlight that. And basically, they also say that Oman has to sort of really invest more. And I'll come on to that, on this on a later slide. Please carry on. So here is, if you look at it, the red line at the bottom is Oman, Saudi Arabia, and then UAE. They're quite easily marked. But if you look one thing very clearly, that for almost 20 years, Oman total productivity has been below zero. And this is why it is below zero, largely because we have been a little bit relaxed because we had hydrocarbon income coming in. That could be one of the reasons. Another is that if you go to Oman, there's a lot of non-skilled workers which are easily accessible, very, very low cost. So that inhibits to a certain extent, the technology sort of introduction. Then, as I mentioned, research and development is very low, and education and employment, we touched about it at our last lecture, that while per student capita for Oman is almost at the rank of advanced economies, but the attainment is quite sort of feeble. So that could be one of the elements. And then obviously the regulatory framework. So these are the reasons that the productivity, total product, this is the sources are given there from where we have got this data. And the whole idea is to focus on technology and how can we then sort of contribute towards making Oman even more productive. I'm not saying that's not productive, but even more better. And that's one of the mantra of smart industry initiative. So if you look at it, sorry, can you go to the next slide? So if you look at it here, Oman is already doing wonderful with their 2040 vision. Okay, we know all this about all these sectors, but it's just a reminder that these are the sectors that Oman is focusing on. Why they are focusing? Because they want economic diversification, job creation. This, you must have heard all this. I just wanted to give you the factor that Oman is already working on the productivity. And this lecture is about how technology can even spur that growth. So here I've tried to sort of give you some economic, very, very top level economic arguments as to why investing in technology does improve productivity, does improve GDP. So here are folks from OECD down, and IMF talks about that public sector support for innovation yield a fiscal multiplier. Like for instance, if you put £1, you can get 3 to 4 pounds sort of return just looking at technology. If a country has got 0.5% increase in research and development, that could raise the GDP by 2%. And remember, when the GDP goes up and the revenue goes up, your debt to GDP, I'm sorry if I'm becoming a little bit technical here, but that's the government debt to GDP also improves because obviously the GDP goes up. Here on the left, sorry, go back. Here on the left, okay, if you look at it, what I've done is basically compared some example on tech investments that when the fiscal spending that the government does, if they're investing in tech, sorry, this morning I had a Catrix thing, so I got to zoom it up, so I apologize for that. So if you really look at it, fiscal expenditure on research and investment in digital infrastructure, what it is, and then if you look at fiscal, it is tax cuts and direct government spending. Tech investment is usually going to generate long-term sustainable growth. Short-term, we saw that what happened in USA when COVID came and the government started spending money. Yeah, it did improve the consumption, but if you really look, the growth was anemic. It's temporary, they're not long-term sustainable thing. And of course, don't forget when you're spending money, you're creating debts. You see where we are today in the developed world. Increased productivity, if you're investing in tech, stimulate demand, you get returns, compounding returns, variable depending upon the implementation of the fiscal plan. And the risk is that you need investment upfront, whereas you're looking for basically potential for increase in debt. So we have seen all that. So this, I was just trying to share this only slide on the economy side, so I apologize for that, but I just wanted to give you a flavor that it makes sense from an economic point of view, that when the government spends or the private sector, I'm not really just relying on government, but private sector, then it does help the fiscal multiplier. This is an amazing chart. Please can you go to the next slide? So this is a visual illustration, okay, that how, this is going back nearly sort of 1,000 years back. And if you look at it in terms of, sorry. So if you look at when the steam engines were introduced around 1750, could you see how little bit growth was happening? And then when you look at the internal combustion engine, then see the growth, and then the fourth industrial revolution that took place, and just notice one thing, where China after 2000 is escalating like steep. Why? Because it was in 2001 that China became part of WTO. But this is a very good illustration, I hope, and this is from McKinsey. which is basically giving yet another comfort for us that investing in technology does result in growth. And Goldman Sachs narrative is there. I'll just look at it. Basically, what they're saying is, artificial intelligence could drive a 7% or almost 7 trillion increase in global GDP and lift productivity by 1.5% annually over a 10-year period. So having gone through that journey that Oman total productivity is below zero, having sort of gone through the economic arguments very quickly and some of the illustrative and wisdom that has been shared, let's go to the other side, please. So this is my favorite slide. Okay. I tell you why, because this smart industry initiative, I really seriously think I would like to say that this journey started in 2016. When oil prices were longer for longer, we all were worried about it, what was happening. I went to, I will not name them, but a couple of very big investing arms of Oman. And I said, we got to do something. We got to do something. We need to sort of generate some returns from here because we are getting oil prices down. So they said, smart as you tell us what to do. You are from Ministry of Finance, you should know what you're doing. So I was very fortunate because I was in the investment world, sort of meeting a lot of people. And it was then I wrote the first paper with a very good friend of mine, Professor Jeremy Angels from Berkeley University, arguing that sovereign wealth funds should really invest in technology. And that was in 2016. And I made, at that 2016, that paper is available online. If anybody wants, I'll give it to British Oman Society, the link. Please read that. Because in that paper was, well, I think the first few person that was talking about that fiscal stimulus doesn't help. And look what's happening today. We are in so much debt, right? And it was around the same time that I met Jim, because we heard that Oxford Science Enterprise is creating an evergreen fund, and he will talk a little bit, hopefully he'll talk a little bit about it, so I will not steal his thunder. But basically, Oman Investment, I used to be on the Oman Investment Fund Investment Committee, and we invested in Oxford Science Enterprise and Cambridge. So this was in 2016, a long journey, that I remember we meeting in a coffee shop, and it was within sort of maybe about half an hour, Jim managed to convince us, and there we go. That's the story started. In 2020, remember I mentioned the paper I did in 2016. In 2020, Global Innovation Index report were writing the theme for 2020 is who should invest in innovation. And they invited me and Professor Berkeley and Victoria from International Federation of Sovereign Wealth Funds to write a full chapter on this. So you can see how the gradual story, I'm just trying to tell you the story, how, the technology is becoming prominent. And today I'm so happy, really seriously, that today in Oman, you have Oman Future Fund helping, committed to putting 40% of money into it. Today we have, Oman Technical Fund, Technology Fund, Technical Fund, CVFR, small few boys, young boys getting together and investing in early startups. We got from Bhawan Phase 1 Ventures, and, oh, I'm so happy that online, sorry guys, if you're hearing me, I got to name you, Ghassan Al-Hashar, one very good friend of mine for years, CFO for Omantel. Ali Hussein, he's just taken up the position of Chief of Strategy in Innovation, and Yusuf Aziz, who was behind the satellite launch on 5th of December. I'm so honored that they're joining me online today and they're listening. And the reason I mentioned them, that they have come up with an amazing sort of strategy, how Omantel will be a real startup for the research and development, capacity in Oman. They want to use it to start it and then give it away to the rest, the government and the universities. But they are starting it. They got amazing sort of strategy clear. They also have an early stage investment for Oman Innovation Lab. Okay, that's where, again, the startups of OSC and other universities that I'll mention can go and benefit and scale them. Also, they have now given strategy for enterprise tech and consumer tech. Don't forget, Omantel is a major shareholder of Zain Group, and through that ownership, they have access to 55 million customers in GCC. So just can you just imagine the collaboration of Oxford University really giving them the latest state of art technology and them already having that infrastructure, capacity, brain, strategy. Inshallah, it should work. I will be very surprised. Don't forget, we started in 2016 this journey. I was telling Arwa a little while ago that this journey has been a long one. And here is the good news. Again, sincere thanks to Jim. I'm really thankful because Jim introduced me to Greg Smith. Greg Smith is online as well. Thank you for participating, Greg, in this. Greg is the CEO of IP Group, which has access to many universities, including University of Cambridge, Imperial College London, Oxford University. Jim is here, but also IP has invested in many other regions, Southampton University, Bristol University. So here, what we have got now is, remember Oman, IMF saying to us, Noti, you're not investing, not putting too much money in research and development. What more you want from that golden triangle of the UK, famous UK triangle there, really there to help develop the research. And what more you want when you have entities like PDO, successful entities like PDO, OQ, Omantel, Al-Nama, all there to adopt that technology. And this in itself is the smart industry mantra. Okay, so now let's look at it. Okay, all the talk done, it looks famous. What is in? What is in for everybody, in terms of, so look at for Oman. Okay, sorry, I just want to go back. So direct access, so let's look at Oman first. Direct access to UK, I mentioned that improves efficiency in industry. And I'll talk about it when I introduce the companies, all this, you will see that. But just bear with me with the narrative, creates jobs for Oman, SME support, reduce economic leakage. I'll mention that economic leakage as well. I'll mention and decarbonization. So that's some of the direct benefits that smart industry will have. But what's in for UK? Well, UK gets reliable partners like PDO, OQ, Al-Nama Group, and now we're also talking about health sector as well, to really scale their spin-outs. That is what UK is going to get. And obviously, when you are, say, for example, talk about the companies, but say one company which has got these control valves which takes the gas and the liquid, which includes water and oil, that company, is the cost of valve is 85% less than the traditional valve, just to give you an idea of why they will get productivity, and also the carbon emissions. So this captive business, just imagine if PDO or OQ buys thousands of those valves, what's happening? The net cash inflow for a finance part of the world, people say that net cash flow improves, it de-risks investment, and therefore it also helps OIA because it's already de-risked, because there's a customer base there's net cash flow coming in. Obviously, it's also good for UK to create jobs. And when I met Jim, I didn't forget realizing their profits, because at the end of the day, when the captive business is de-risked, that other investors will come and want to invest as well. And that incidentally is true for OIA, because OIA is invested in OAC. So I hope having made the reasonable case for why it is good for Oman. Please, next slide. This is, I think, one of the most important slides, okay? What we are talking here, okay, so generally, okay, when people talk about investing in startup, they say, has OIA invested in you? Has everybody invested? No. Here we are, smart industry mantra, we don't want, in the sense, we want to de-risk OIA investment into OSC. So we were looking for business-to-business partnerships which is partnership between the companies that I will talk about in just literally a few minutes, and partnership with the companies of Oman like PDO, OQ, Al-Nama, MB Petroleum, and all. As I explained to you, what happens is that if they start buying their products or do the joint investment, they basically are getting access to all the company's operational needs and therefore cash flows, because wells will be sold, all the other products will be sold. And most importantly, what is that it is bringing the technology mind of that particular company, the startup, with the technology people who already know their technology in PDO, right? Just recently, one of my very good friends, Sami Baki, who is a technical director of PDO, was interviewed, and he's talked about how PDO has embarked on its technology journey. Chris will tell us, thanks to Shell, enhanced oil recovery was successful in Oman, the first country that sort of implemented enhanced oil recovery. So B2B partnership, de-risking investment, but also bringing the technology mindset together as well, which is likely to result in good results. Because if you have PDO technology hat and the functional hat sitting together, looking at Oxford flow, which I'll talk about it, valves, they're more likely to understand each other and work together rather than just investing in a startup. I think that is the real backbone of this sort of thing. And of course, you get all the scaling. And once you get into technology, you can even, and sorry, one more thing that I must mention is that all the companies that I'm now going to talk about are committed. And one of them has even given in writing that they will establish manufacturing facilities in Oman. So that's also is committed. Of course, they need to have business case, right? And that's why we need to work at both. We need to encourage PDO, OQ, and other companies of Oman to also look at this technology, adopt this technology, and obviously at the same time, the provider of the technology has already shown their commitment. Don't forget research and development. I don't know how much Shell spends billions of dollars in research. Sir, here with your association directly, maybe you're getting it for $1,000. I don't know. What I'm trying to say to you is you got the universities backing it, the spin outs looking after it. Don't forget the Oxford Science Enterprise. I mean, their investor base is amazing. You know who invested in them? Temasek, the Singaporean investment fund, Google Ventures, Sequoia. So just imagine they are looking at out of the 4,000 researchers that comes every year from Oxford University, they are scanning which is commercially viable. Can you believe Oman doesn't have to do that and just link it, straight away and adopt it in their operations in oil and gas or other operation, manufacturing, industrial. So many implications are there. Please. We come. You say, Hamid, tell me something about this. This is an incredible story. Can I just tell you a story? I met Tom Povey, Professor Tom Povey, in 2016. Jim introduced me. He came to Oman. You know who is this guy? He is a guy who invented these valves, but he is the one who invented Eagle, which landed on the moon in 1969. He's a guy who helped Tesla having issues at the back of the envelope, right? It was a napkin, WhatsApp copy straight to Elon Musk and solve the problems of this brave, beautiful, brilliant mind is behind this. What it basically does is it has taken away the hydraulic part and just made it into a single thing. And if you look at the picture here, just see, this is a conventional valve. See how big it is. It has to go in deep, how big it is. Look at this one, Oxford, no installation cost. No installation cost. And if you really look at it in terms of smaller, lighter, you saw it about reduced mechanism. These walls, okay, you need to maintain them every year. This is maintenance free. Just imagine your cost, right? No leaks, because it's a stem, there's no leak, no emissions. Just imagine. And in Oman, I don't know, Chris, whether you agree with me, but there's around at least 5,000 valves everywhere in just energy sector. Just in energy sector. And if you really look at it, their customer already, ADNOC, BP, is already buying those valves. So it's already what we call it product to market. It's ready, man. And I am, if you really look at all these companies, and these are also hydrogen compliant. Water valves are there, and BP has just recently invested 25 million. The investment arm of BP has invested 25 million. They're buying these valves. Just imagine if we can get it adopted and set up manufacturing facilities in Oman, just imagine where we would be. Because you can literally service the whole GCC region. You have Aramco, you have other companies that are doing it. And ADNOC is already committed to do this. So I hope you get, and by the way, just recently I learned that their water walls, okay, was introduced in Muscat, okay, in 2018 by Public Authority of Water. And could you believe they have reduced the pipe burst from 13 per month to guess what? Zero. And also saved an estimated of 1,000 gallons of water being wasted. Just imagine that 1,000 gallons of water. Do you know how much subsidies, how much fiscal subsidy is going to reduce our water bill? So honestly, this is no brainer in terms of Oxford flow. So I hope you can get, and then go back to, remember that I was talking about how Oman can benefit, efficiency, cost going down, and obviously when the cost goes down, subsidies goes down as well for the energy sector. Next slide, please. Archangel Lightwork. This is, sorry to say, is not from Oxford University. This is Harwell Space Center, which is just outside Oxford, which is one of the top European center. What it does is, you can see this little equipment. It basically directly connects with the satellite constellation. And this is the first laser communication directly. Okay, imagine the benefits of it. It does not have to, it is many-fold faster in data transfer, many-fold secured, and voluminous transfer as well, which means that the data cost per data byte is significantly cheaper than the existing radio frequency way of communicating from satellite to ground station. And it also basically eliminates the routing of domestic and international data through the space network. And basically what it does, sorry, not eliminate, it allows it through space. So therefore it sort of, the sea cabling, it could be a contingent for that as well, contingent there. And you can reach everywhere where there is no cables as well. We are at the moment in very sort of close talks with Omantel and Oman Space companies. And the proof of concept is being, and UK government is testing at the moment this in real world as well. So that's Archangel Lightwork. Alloys. Now, alloys is really misunderstood. In fact, I was very lucky because I went there. I live in Abingdon and they're based in Abingdon. So I saw all these companies I visited, by the way. Okay, I met the executive leadership thanks to Jim, and he introduced us to all the details. And alloys, basically, I would like to claim it as a design of playing with the materials. So, the real innovative thing is that they are able to print. While 3D printing is there for sure, but behind that there is a science of combining various materials together, nickel and all those materials. And what it does is that then it enables the component that are produced to be able to resist energy, heat quite a lot, and therefore optimize the energy production, of the component that they're producing. That in essence is Alloy doing it. Look at that, the partnership They've signed a partnership with Boeing for 5 years. And guess where Alloy's component is in the satellite in the space, which is the most regulated, sensitive safety thing. So they've already proved their concept. They got a 5-year agreement with Boeing. They've been working on it for many years. They're also developing prototype for Google, and Microsoft, all trusted partners, you know. They are also sort of managed to get the medical equipments as well, medical components, okay, which basically have been approved by European sort of law. And do you know that when you have sort of any replacement of our wrist bones or knees, now you may have to go back again and again, right? After a few years. No way, Jose, with this one once. Can you believe? What is the technology? I'm so happy that I'm living in Oxford and exposed to so many brilliant minds. When you go there, so much is happening in a beautiful country. And what a beautiful effort will be that we partner with a beautiful country, Oman. This is, sorry, I get emotional when we talk about this. So this is all about Alloyed, and last, but not the least, have patience. This is the first 24/7, renewable energy available. Who is a brainchild? Peter Ireland. I met Peter. I don't know whether you're online. I hope you are. Peter, I met him, Peter Ireland. He's the head of Oxford Thermofluid Institute, world renowned. World renowned. He's the top one. Okay. And he has been involved in the designing of the jet engines for Boeing and Airbus. And I saw that engine in his in his laboratory. I touched it, you know what I mean? And this guy, mashallah, he's such a brilliant mind. And what he has designed in this technology, you see, these are mirrors. These are not solar panels. Okay, so when you produce solar panels, you do need chemicals, by the way. Here, these are just mirrors, okay? Here is the tower station where the receiving tower station is there. And what it does, it heats the air, okay? The air captures the heat of the air, and then the jet engine throws the cold air, and through the passing of the cold air, there is also thermal sort of what do you call, stones or material that absorbs that heat. Because remember, when the plane is going up in the air, there's a lot of heat that is generated. And that's the technology, the jet engine technology. So what it does is that the heated air, when passed through the cold air, gets absorbed into the thermal thing. And then you can use, and then you blow again the cold air, and you get basically the heat out. And that's where it's not relying on any solar power that you basically sort of is intermittent. You know that wind is intermittent. It depends on the heat. And you know what is the beauty? Well, remember I talked about leakages. 80% of the things that they need are already being produced in Oman. So, so if they set up a manufacturing facility, just imagine what leakage is going to. And by the way, it occupies only 50% of the land that a solar panel will occupy for generating the same amount of. So even the land use is less, and it is using basic materials, so it's low cost. Cost is also an element. So I hope you can see that. We have at the moment sort of basically, I'm just trying to see if I'm, no, yeah. And we have arranged meetings for OTCO. We are participating in Oman Sustainability Week. We have a panel discussion. We're introducing all these technologies, with the stakeholders. They've already been introduced, but we are going again there to re-emphasize. And this is what is our plan ahead. Okay, so hopefully with Greg, and there's also Northern Gridstone, which is another sort of OAC equivalent, monetizing coming research from northern universities. And if you look at I mentioned some new, so I've gone 4 companies, but now me and Jim are working. He's introduced me to Osler. You wouldn't believe what Osler is. do you know that the blood test that we do, this blood test, okay, 80% of the blood test can be done in 15 minutes on a gadget which is like this, right? Just imagine how much we have to wait for NHS or somebody to give, a blood appointment and then the blood test, and it takes ages, right? And even a complicated blood test can take 24 hours, 27 hours, you know. Imagine the saving in national health, These gadgets will be available at the pharmacies. So you literally can go and have your test within 15 minutes. Just imagine if you got a very contagious disease, okay? Sepsis or whatever, you go to, you're sort of, sort of confined to isolation and all because the test results are not there till 27 hours. Just imagine you go there. Look at the implication if you look further, okay? You can link it to your telemedicines, and all those kind of implications. 80% of the tests done in 15 minutes. And the other one is Gate Q, which is really amazingly addressing the Parkinson disease, which is prevalent in Oman quite a lot. So basically, I have seen it with my own sinful eyes that people are walking, they have created sort of technology. It's like a pad which goes onto your knee and you're walking. And now they're partnering with another technology company where the upper body is also involved. Just imagine Oman becomes the first country to introduce that. What a lovely thing it would be. I really think that, what I feel, I hope you will agree, that smart initiative in the industry initiative is not just a concept. It's a blueprint. It's a standard, to bring world scale technology. I mean, what more you can ask Oxford University, Imperial College, and Cambridge, and many other Southampton, Bristol, all partnering with people like PDO, OQ, and other companies like that. What are you creating? You're creating an amazing innovation hub in Oman. The last word I would like to say is let's invest, innovate, and connect. Thank you for your time.
Hamid, thank you very much indeed. Fascinating and energizing talk as always. Every time I hear you talk about Oxford Flow and OQ and PDO, I'm reminded a bit about how difficult it is. And you mentioned Gate Q and how come they're doing this in Oman, or they'd like to do this in Oman rather than the UK? And the answer to that is getting into the NHS is like getting into a fortress. What worries me about what we're trying to do in the smart industry initiative is getting into PDO is equally difficult. And what I really don't want to happen. Well, Nabil, welcome. What I really don't want to happen is this all passes Oman by because we're not quick enough. We, as in Oman, are not quick enough to pick up these gifts from research and development in Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, etc. So please look closely at the opportunities because they are big opportunities. And if they don't go to Oman, they will go somewhere else. We have the CFO from Oxford Science Enterprises with us this evening. So while we look offline at some of the questions, if any, that have come in from people listening remotely, Jim, would you like to come and say a few words about OSE?
Thanks very much, Chris. And Hamid, thank you very much. It was quite an expensive cup of coffee we had back in 2016, but the outcome from it should be absolutely massive. So OSE started up 10 years ago, actually, and we were created to solve a problem, which was lack of capital. So if you look at Oxford University, it spends about £950 million a year on research and was creating about 4 companies a year out of all that research. Equivalent number of companies from MIT, was 28. So Oxford University, #1 research university in the world for the previous 8 years, there's a massive problem. IP Group have been created and actually solved part of that problem, because without them, they wouldn't have had 4 companies. And actually, IP Group then went round and they partnered with 28 universities. We've learned a lot from them. Greg's a close friend. We work together. It's non-competitive because honestly, the amount of IP that's in the British universities is huge, and we're just scratching the surface, both of us. And Northern Gritstone is doing it around Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, whereas Oxford's got £950 million worth of research. They've got about 1.2 billion in total. Greg's sitting on a lot more with his 28 universities. So our trick is, can we actually get these companies out from the university? And it's not easy. And actually, the answer was capital. So we're in partnership with the university. So we're a company set up for the long term. We raised £600 million back in 2015-16, which is the biggest single university fund in the world by a factor of 4, excluding China, where the numbers are a little bit more hazy. And since then, we raised another sort of £300 million. All that has gone into Oxford companies, or from Harwell, as Archangel is, as Hamid said. We've also brought in alongside that $3 billion of other money from around the world into the companies, because once we can actually find the tech and create the company, then our job is to go out and get investors into the companies. We're actually, about a third of our companies are life sciences, a third are health tech, like diagnostic equipment, and a third are deep tech. We're actually plugged into most of the big investors across the world now. As Hamid said, we've got Google as a shareholder, we've got Temasek. So all that is absolutely brilliant. OIA were one of our cornerstone investors in 2016. We've been close to them. We've made a particular effort over the course of the last year, once the Future Fund was launched, to actually try and open up this bridge, which the Strategic Industry Initiative is absolutely crucial on, to get our companies into Oman. And as Chris said, you know, why Oman at this particular time? Well, first of all, OIA is quite dear to my heart because they cornerstoned our second fundraise. We don't actually owe them anything apart from a financial return, which they're going to get, hopefully. But we want to get into the GCC. All the companies we've got are world leading tech. We've got 130 of them. There's 50 we're really concentrating on. So there's a lot that we can do. The issue you've got with the company is that the tech very rarely fails. About 3% of the tech will actually fail. Product market fit is your big problem. And obviously, when we're going around the world, we need development partners. We need industries that want to develop the products with us, to refine them and get them right. Oxford Flow is 10 years old. So it took that long to actually get the product right and then get adoption within the industry. And we've got this ability at the moment to site factories. So Osler is going to make these Origin devices, these diagnostic devices. They're going to make them somewhere in the world. They might as well make them in Oman as anywhere else. So we're looking and saying, is this something that can fit in Oman? And across all the companies we've got, and IP Group have got more companies than we've got. Northern Gritstone have got less at the moment because they're younger. But across all those, which are the ones that actually will make the difference, that will get those companies successful and will actually fit in with what Oman is trying to do? And that's what we're trying to do in this initiative. So that's it. I think we've got huge possibilities. We've got huge possibilities in the UK from what we're doing, but we've also got huge possibilities around the world. So we want to make sure that all the doors are open. As I said, it's non-competitive because the products we've got are really quite special. But getting them adopted, getting them rolled out, getting them commercial, that's the really key difficult bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I failed in one of my basic duties, which was to suggest that people, if they wanted to ask questions online, they should do so during the course of the Hamid's talk. The result is that we only opened the lines a few minutes ago, and so we only have one question from online. I will ask that, and I think I probably know the answer, but I'll get Hamid to answer it, and then we'll open the floor to people in the room to ask questions. So Hamid, if you'd like to come out. The question is, and it's from Vaibhav Krishna, is there an innovation fund or an initiative similar to Innovate UK available in Oman?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. Yeah, I mean, Oman Innovation Lab is there. Then there is a couple of other, I mean, Future Fund has got, I think ODI. Arwa, can you help me? What is that thing that they have it in OIA? ODI. Yeah, yeah. So those are three straight away things that they're working on it. But as I say to you, Montel has got a phenomenal strategy ahead where they have created an enterprise tech and a consumer tech, which will also create a lot of B2B business opportunities, monetizing the 55 million customer access that they have through their ownership in Zain.
Thank you very much. Open to the floor. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Hello. Thanks very much for the talk. I have been doing a little bit of work in Oman with a couple of collaborators and we talk a lot about in-country values. So really interested in this wider discussion. Value both of your opinions on separate UK and Oman consideration of the relationship between R&D and in-country value. I will get to the question just a second. So from the presentation, I think we heard that there will be a lot of in-country value generation from the transfer of UK IP to. Is there a consideration of how that loop is perhaps closed for Oman in terms of generation of new IP within the country, or is it anticipated that the flow of IP remains one way? And then second part of my question, what's the difference in terms of how the UK and Oman are kind of dealing with those dynamics?
Before you answer, I'm very conscious that people online won't have heard a word of that. So if I could repeat, and I'll try and paraphrase. Apologies if I get it wrong. You flagged up ICV and UK and Oman's consideration of the relationship between ICV and innovation. Sorry, ICV being in-country value. So first part of the question was, is there a consideration of how to close the loop of IP into innovation in Oman? And secondly, what is the difference between the approach to this subject in the UK and in Oman? Who would like to go first?
I'll definitely come, but I'll let Jim first answer this.
Okay, thanks. So first of all, these companies that we're talking about have got round about 50 to 100 employees. So they're not big companies. They're not fully developed companies. They're companies at the start of the journey. So for example, if I look at Oxford Flow, the aim would be to get their distribution and manufacturing depot into Oman. And then from there, you actually learn how to actually manufacture these at scale. There's going to be learnings as you go through, but that then would become the distribution hub for probably North Africa and maybe even India, as well as the GCC. And then that should become not just low-level jobs, managerial jobs, and then also development jobs. And that's true of all our industries. So Alloy, that Hamid talked about, the uses they've got for their design, I think you called it, metal design, are huge. So if, for example, that was set up in Oman, then actually around that's focused on the oil industry, then all the development around that product would be in Oman for the oil industry. That's where the expertise would be. There would certainly be in Oxford key knowledge, obviously, and we want to try and keep as much research in Oxford as we can to feed back into the university to get more output. Kind of think that's that big thing. So I sort of see that wherever one of our hubs sets up, it's not just a straight distribution of low-level jobs. It's everything. I think the difference is between Oman and UK. I'm not sure there is much of a difference. It's very difficult to get these companies to scale and get the product market fit and get the commercial bit. It's where they will go wherever it becomes the simplest route through. So, and actually one of the brilliant things about having Hamid is he's negotiating the culture in Oman for us, because if it was just us, we wouldn't have a clue. And I kind of think, it's similar in NHS. If you try to negotiate the NHS, it's impossible unless you've got people in there. So that's I kind of think that is the route through. I don't know if.
Yeah, no, I mean, just wanted. It's a great question, actually. The thing that
I thought it was a good question as well.
No, too late. You know what? I mean, I've been on the board finance committee of PDO. I've with Oman Air as well, another thing. They have got legal departments and there is IP element into it. So when such negotiations they're very mature, really. I mean, and when such negotiations takes place, I don't know. I mean, if they are sort of, as you say, alloyed is a phenomenal example that if there is a new product that is really sort of that alloys have not considered and it's jointly developed by Oman, and then perhaps, I'm sorry if I say that there could be an IP entitlement. If I was sitting in PDO, I would ask for such things, you know. And the beauty, you know, I just forgot to mention one thing about alloys is, as I said to you, I went to the Abingdon sort of facility. You know what? You can touch a switch here and the product will be printed in Oman. And that is amazing. That is supply bottleneck. You know, you are having natural disasters, you are having geopolitical disasters. Just imagine having this facility offshore, just press a button and it's produced. And in oil industry, we know Chris will agree with me that you know we have a lot of spare parts which are not available on time. So what happens? It takes ages. So therefore, there is unscheduled deferment of oil, which costs the country and the company a lot of money. Here, press the button and it's produced. Finally, you know, a lot of these oil industries, you know, sort of component and spare parts are dominated by few companies, which is called original equipment manufacturers. They charge their own money because they are in a way kind of a monopolistic situation. Just imagine, I dream really for that day that PDO produces its next generation spare parts, and then literally what India did with the AIDS, you know, sort of tablets and medicine, make it generic. Can you believe the amazing potential we have with alloys here? So IP can be negotiated. I can tell you, assure you that there is reasonable talent within the country in Oman to do that.
Great. We have a couple more questions online, and since they're going to close out at 6, I thought I would just ask one of them, if that's okay, and then we'll come back to you, sir. The question is from Yusuf Al-Badi, and the question is there a formal bilateral initiative between the UK and Oman on smart industries, or are the things you're talking about, the proposed collaboration, still in the planning stages? I know what my answer to that would be, but I'll hand it over to you two. Do you want?
Yeah, go ahead first. I'll come back to my.
Okay, so my answer to that is we raised the Smart Industry Initiative at the Strategic Advisory Group, which is a formal arrangement between the British government and the Omani government. So in that sense, it is a formal bilateral subject. But the chairman of the group, His Excellency Nasser Al-Jashmi, agreed that it would be not the right way forward if this became a government initiative, and it would be far better to leave it to the private sector, where the profit motive and speed could be delivered. So it is a semi-formal initiative, but it's not a government initiative as such.
Yeah, and it's a work in progress. So just to add to what Chris said, that back in 2022, there was a sovereign investor partnership signed between UK and Oman, and SAG, which is Strategic Advisory Group, is part of their role is to oversee that. What we, as I say, it's a work in progress at the moment. Okay, we've introduced the technology to quite a few important companies in Oman. The technology trials will take place, hopefully, and then there will be a shareholders agreement signed. So therefore, that will be the manifest. And you know, private sector also includes you know, people like PDO, OQ, Alama, because they all have their own utility companies and all. So that would be a conventional shareholders agreement, be it be just buying things directly from Oxford Flow or other companies, or having a JV together. So that would be the way forward. Sorry.
Great. You were going to ask a question.
Is this model and the sort of pathway approach that got as applicable to smart service industries as it is on industries that are actually producing a physical product?
Repeat the question into the mic.
Yeah, the question is that is this smart industry initiative can be applicable to the service industry as well? Yes, I would say, because there are a couple of, I mean, what I have literally looked at it is only about 4 or 5 companies. As Jim said, there's 50 companies, and we have just started our talk with IP Group and North Griston, and I can tell you there is one definitely Navino. Yeah, is do you want to talk about Navino?
Yeah, Navino is an indoor location tracker that just uses your normal mobile phone. You don't have to download anything, but it can tell. It can tell. It's got a master map, so think of it like the Marauders map in Harry Potter. You can see where everybody in a hospital is at any one point. So if you've got a big hospital, and some of these are really, some of the hospitals are really big, you can see where all the porters are. So at the moment, rather than a porter coming back to base and then walking back to the side of the hospital, you can see where they are, sending a text going, move this person from this bed to that ward or whatever it is. And the efficiency gains are around about 70%. So they are really material. So something like that is, and you can use them in airports, you can use them in all sorts of places. Those sort of things are definitely there. All our tech is world leading, whatever it's used for, and it's all commercial, or we hope it's all commercial. We just got to find the right commercial partner and the right use for it, which is why, that's why we're looking for partners and all these things to actually help us develop the final user case or pick it up and use it.
And just to amazement of Navino, they managed to get into 15 NHS hospitals, and they've got documented the success as well. So it's not just a concept; it has happened, and there's also one American private hospital has adopted them as their technology as well. So that's kind of probably nearest to the service sector, but partly it's my ignorance, because I've only just looked at few companies. First person to raise was this gentleman. Sorry if I don't mind. If you please introduce yourself, because
My name is James Bamford. I've worked in innovation for about 10 years.
Okay.
I recently was invited to Tech Mixer, as it was called, between investors and Saudi Arabian businesses in WPP's offices. And what I'm asking is, they're looking to bring Saudi Arabian businesses to be incubated here in London for accelerators. Is there that kind of? I know Plexel are in Oman, but is there vice versa?
I haven't come across anything vice versa apart from with Omantel. We're looking to actually see what we can do to help them in Europe as well as us there. So the bridge both goes way. I think it's worthwhile saying that of the Gulf countries that we deal with, Saudi Arabia and Qatar have been sort of reaching out to us in the same way that we've reached out to Oman to try and sort that out. Oman is our focus at the moment. That's where we want to try and establish, can there be a bridge? If there can be a bridge, that's where we want our companies to go first and have one base. But it can go to other countries.
Yeah, and if you noticed, okay, I dropped many times the company name. This is B2B partnership, so it's really going directly between the two businesses. One who's just innovating the technology, and another is adopting the technology. So we want to really, if I use that, start from the bottoms up rather than up with the government authority telling us this is this, this is this. But yeah, it can take place at some time. But really, we want to be successful in Oman. Why? Because Oman. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So the deal that we're talking about with Omantel is to bring those companies across here, because we've got incubators in Oxford. We're very happy to host them and introduce them. So yeah, but it's very early stages.
Sorry, Richard.
Richard, I was just going to ask about, is there an advanced case study? So, have you got a company that's proven the way and showing the others how to do this? Or is it, how theoretical, how real is this today?
So if it wasn't for COVID, I'm fairly sure Oxford Flow would have deals in place now. COVID got in the way, so Oxford Flow actually had their valves used in the Water Authority actually, and in one of the oil companies. And COVID kind of sort of destroyed that relationship, and so we started again. So I've been looking for about 18 months to see what we could do in Oman. I think actually Hamid came on board about 6-8 months ago, and that's when it's really taken off. So the discussions are all happening at the moment fairly confident will lead to some commercial deals. The question is how many and how big, and what can we build on from there.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you saw on the customer list of Oxford Flow, so they've already made product to market test already, because BP is literally buying their control valves. ADNOC is buying their control valves. So while the case study is not happened in Oman, but it should happen, because BP will not sort of risk health and safety with their valves, at all. It's just only a matter of time. It's just a work in progress. And Oman has shown at very senior levels interest in all these technology. Am I right, sir?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'm James Warren from the University of Leeds, also currently with FCDO as well. My question is really related to intellectual property and the protection of intellectual property, because this seems like a really interesting model, but without kind of HMG's involvement. I'm wondering what kind of protections are there for this quite nascent intellectual property, particularly in the world that we see now with considerable amounts of industrial espionage. What kind of protections are in place during this kind of birth period that you're going through?
So the first thing I'd say is Northern Gritstone are meeting Hamid very shortly, so Leeds is going to be included in this project. We have this issue all the time, so we won't transfer things to IP to countries that we're going to be at risk from. So for example, we will deal with China, but we won't transfer all the IP. We'll keep some of it back so that they can't actually replicate what we're doing in most cases. So we're very aware of the issues around this.
Yeah, and the thing, if you see what model we are envisaging, is that the relationship can happen in two ways. Oxford Flow can have, I'm just giving one example, it's no bias to Oxford Flow, okay, sorry, any of the technology companies can set up a manufacturing facility in Oman, and then with other investors, and then just supply it to the PDOs, the likes of PDO, OQ, and other companies. So that in itself protects its IP right, because that is Oxford Flow on its own, having that thing. The other way is when they have a joint venture, and where there could be IP could be a subject of negotiation. I'm very comfortable to say that Shell trusted Oman when they brought the enhanced oil recovery, and BP brought their tight gas. So I feel that Oman is, I'm not saying because I've lived there for 20 years, but literally worked there. It's an amazing country, which really inspires confidence that there won't be such risk of an IP sort of leakages, at least because otherwise Shell wouldn't have still continues to invest. BP still continues to invest.
Great. We have one last question online, which I think we can answer fairly quickly, and then I think we ought to close. It's a question from a gentleman based in Derby. How can SMEs in the UK establish connection with Omani companies, especially in the field of logistics and Industry 4.0 tech? Will the British Omani Society provide a platform for it? And the answer to that is, if you're a corporate member, we are a charity, and so we don't get involved in the business side of it, but we are involved as a charity in educating Omanis about Britain and educating British people about Omanis. So if you have an opportunity that Omanis would be interested in, we are happy to educate them about that opportunity. So in that sense, we do provide a platform, but we're not in the business of marketing, if you like. Any last?
So there's a fantastic organisation in Moscow called Al Jaber, who are a hub for innovation on that side. And anyone looking for a kind of soft landing into Oman would be advised.
Okay, if the people online didn't hear it, it's a comment from the audience. There's a company, an organisation in Muscat called Al Jaber. And if any UK SMEs would like a soft landing in Oman, that's a potential first port of call. There is also, we have the representative from the Omani embassy in the room with us. And of course, Omani embassy would be extremely interested in people wanting to invest in Oman. So if you are an SME willing to and wishing to set up in Oman, then you can make inquiries from the embassy as well. That's all I think we have time for